Hello and welcome to the Talking Ballax podcast. Today I am joined by Euan once again. Euan, how are we doing?
Good, mate. Good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, all good. Thank you, mate. All good. And we have special guest returning. Well, first time on this iteration of the podcast, but he has been on the Goal in One before. We've got James, who's a Forest fan. James, how are we doing?
Very well, thank you, mate. Very well. Thank you very much for having me on, boys.
No, anytime, mate. Anytime. We'll start with the breaking news of the day, shall we? So the relegation manager merry-go-round starts this morning with Lampard, first one to go. Are we surprised by this or not really?
Well, being perfectly honest, you know, it's always one of them, isn't it? Managers always seem to be the ones that's in the firing line. I'm not reading too much into it here at Everton, but there's massive issues there somewhere along the line. Obviously, a lot with the board. Fans really disappointed with him. But I don't really think Lampard's done that much of a bad job, you know, with the budget that he's had and players like that, you know. But bringing in players like Dwight McNeil and James Tarkowski and players like that, they're good squad players, but are they really going to be the ones that's going to be pushing you up the table? Not really, but he had his hands tied a little bit with the job he's done. I think he's done okay, but yeah, I'm not surprised he's gone. Something had to change there. But...
Yeah, fair enough. You agree or?
It doesn't surprise me, I guess, because Everton are a bit of a basket case. But to be honest, I think 7 managers in 7 years says a lot. They all seem to want this change immediately. It doesn't work like that. I mean, there's so many clubs that have had to go down to rebuild, and I genuinely think that's going to be good for Everton if they do go down. I think the longer they try and cling on, the more likelihood there is of doing like a Sunderland and dropping more than probably they need to, because Lampard has never really proven it at the Premier League level. I know he did okay at Chelsea, given he had a transfer ban, but I've never thought of a player who's like miraculously got better under him. I don't really think anyone's really fulfilled the potential. I don't think there's many who could come in and do a better job, but I think that says more about the club than him.
Yeah,
you can't really sell it. Sorry, Jack. You can't really sell a player like Richarlison. They got really good money for Richarlison, by the way. But you can't really sell a player like him and then not really invest in the squad either. You know, it was obvious it was on the cards. It was going to happen, but you know, I think Lampard probably you know should have has earned himself a bit more time with the job that he did last year by keeping him up. But again, you know, it's always the manager that's in the firing line to go into it. So it's
the easiest thing to change, isn't it? It's the easiest thing you can't change the squad. You can't change the board, so you have to change the manager, don't you? But if we were to put money on next one to go, who are we saying? Euan?
Rodgers. Sorry.
No, fair mate. I'm fully on board. I'm fully on board this time.
It's not even that I think. It's not even that I think he's like the definite next, but I think he's the most obvious one. You've fallen quite a way, and I don't think he's necessarily trying to take any credit or responsibility for anything that's gone on. He's always trying to. We've spoke about this before, Jack. Trying to put it on someone else, trying to look for excuses, which there is elements of it that are true. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, you're the manager. You're the one who picks the team. You're the one who's not finding a plan B when it's not going well. He has to take responsibility, and I think he's waiting for the payoff. And it sounds like your owners are very reluctant to give him it. So it's almost like a bit of a standoff at the minute. But I would say Rodgers is probably the most sensible shout.
I think if they don't back him, if they do back him, like they're looking to, like they've signed Christiansen this weekend, and then we're looking like we're trying to bring in Harry Souttar from Stoke, and then we're trying to bring in
good player, by the way.
Looks it, yeah, and then trying to bring in a tricky winger. If they back him and then things still go badly, he's got to be the next one to go, really, because ultimately the money it will take to get rid of Rodgers is minuscule in comparison to the money that we'll lose for going down. So, James, do you agree, or do you think there's someone else in the firing line?
No, I do agree. You know, looking at the table, you're thinking, well, going from the bottom up, it's Southampton. They've already made the change. I can't see them sacking Nathan Jones. Everton obviously have lost the manager today. Bournemouth with Gary O'Neill, they'll probably end up going down with him and trying to rebuild with him. Wolves obviously already made the change. West Ham, I can't see him getting rid of much. So, yeah, when you look from the table up, Leeds, Jesse March, I think they'll probably stick with him. So, yeah, when you're looking at the table going up, I think it'll be Roger be the next one in the firing line.
I actually heard from an agent today that David Moyes is on the shortlist for Everton, and I'm not.
Unsurprising.
I don't know how I feel about it, because it feels like they're going full circle, but Moyes did something similar when he went to West Ham, and then he left, and then he went back.
Yeah,
and I don't know if West Ham would kind of go, do you know what, take him, because we're a bit sick of him. So it could end up being that West Ham are the next one to lose their manager, not because they sack him, because they allow him to leave.
It wouldn't surprise me if
one
West
that you
Ham
could look at.
Wouldn't surprise me if West Ham then came in for Rodgers as well. You know,
absolutely, yeah.
He is the sort of But anyway, so yeah, that's. I think I probably agree with you both, to be honest. Yeah, which is damning for us. Kind of says about what I've been subject to watching the last few weeks. Something else happened in the news this week, which I really wanted to talk about, and I don't know how you two really feel about it. I know we've got our own opinions about it, but obviously someone who I'd only really heard the name in passing, because obviously he'd been at Crawley, and obviously the only reason I knew his name is because I read up and I listened to a few podcasts about when they got taken over by those crypto people from America, and then obviously he was the manager. Well, he'd been the manager previously, and this is John Yems, to those of you who don't know. And he's been banned from all football for 18 months. Now, he is getting on a bit. He's an older coach. He's an older sort of statesman in the game. But he's been banned for 18 months. And I'm just going to run off some of the quotes and some of the things that he's done. And I just want you two to share your opinion about it. And granted, these are not the views held by the people on this podcast. I'm directly quoting from the FA panel that investigated John Yems. Okay, so he was found to have described Muslim members of the squad as terrorists, deliberately mispronounced the second half of Arnold Schwarzenegger's name to emphasize the N-word, used a racial stereotype to a black player of African origin by asking if he liked jerk chicken, told Muslim players, your people blow up stuff with vests, said that an Iraqi youth international at the club would probably blow up the stadium, repeatedly made comments about another player carrying a bomb in his bag, called one player a curry muncher and asked if the player was unhappy that they did not have a curry pizza, and made a remark to one player about how dark his skin is after he returned to Crawley after representing Granada. And then the FA has the audacity to turn around and say, this man is not a conscious racist. And in line with their kick it out campaign, it's not a great look, is it, for the FA to only ban?
Just blows that, like you just said, the kick it out campaign just literally blows everything out. You know, all through lockdown and stuff like that, before the game, players been taking the knee and that to kick it out of the game, and then literally you've got a manager down in League Two that's making comments like that. Like I said to you earlier, when I messaged you yesterday, Jack, you know, it's we know this isn't the 1960s anymore. This is 2023. You know, we're talking, and all for a bit of banter on the training field and stuff like that. But yeah, that ain't banter, is it? You know,
no, I think you're right, mate. But Euan,
I know you said he was an elder statesman. He's only 63-year-old. Like for me, that's just crazy. It's not like he's 80s, 90s, you know, and he's losing his mind. This guy knows what he's saying. And I'm sorry, but who are the FA to tell someone whether they are a non-conscious racist? Like, surely that's for other people to make their mind up on. And if he's capable of saying those things, what else is he capable of saying? Let's say there was a gay player at that club. Is he just going to take the mick out of him and focus on him and just completely target and discriminate against that? Like, this opens a can of worms. And I'm not saying he is homophobic. I'm not saying, but the likelihood is if he's capable of saying these things, he's capable of saying other things. And I don't understand from, as someone who works with young children and things, and people who are under the age of 18, why you wouldn't want to set a better example. Yeah. Like, even if you were behind closed doors, like, why would you say that in front of other people? I can't imagine how uncomfortable those lads would have felt around this bloke, because I can guarantee they wouldn't have dared say anything because he'd have said something back. And he's clearly authoritative, because if you've heard interviews from me, you know, he comes across very brash. I don't think the FA are in any position to make any comment or judgment whether they think he is or isn't. That's for other people to make their mind up on, and to not give him a lifetime ban. Yeah, I just don't get it. I've got a friend who he's like my best mate, and you know him, Jack Gerge. He's British Indian, and I know that one training session he went to when he was growing up, the local team to me, and I don't think my area is very racist at all, to be honest. And I know other areas are around the country. He got all sorts of abuse. They used to take the mick out of his name. They used to say things about like what he ate and things like that. And it's just, that was when we were growing up. And to think that it's still the case now really does scare me, because these people are in a position of power. They need to really act.
Definitely, like he's a role model. If he's a manager of your club, you're sort of like, he's a role model. He should be that person that you're going to go to have a chat and say, pull him to one side. I've got something I want to tell you in confidence and that. And if you're a black player, I'm not laughing about it, but if you're a black player and you're going to literally, confront him about it, and he's going to throw something like that back in your face.
It's a safeguarding issue as well. Imagine
100%. 100%.
Like the Iraqi lad, like they said he was a youth team player. Well, how young are we talking? Is he 15? Is he 16? Because if he is, that's safeguarding.
Yeah.
That's abuse.
Yeah.
It's not just racism, it's abuse. I think it's an absolute disgrace. And I'm someone who's quite passionate about this, as people who know me, like, obviously are well aware. But I don't like the fact that someone might say something about people I care about. And I've got people who I would kind of defend no matter what. But I don't understand how people round him and people who know him can even try and defend it. It's indefensible.
This is 2023 in the Football League, isn't it? In the English Football League, 4th division of English football. Yeah.
Well, it's not even there, though. I mean, I know this is different, but it kind of links back to what you were saying, Euan. But you had that whole controversy with the Liam Smith, Chris Eubank Jr. thing over the weekend with him, like, questioning his sexuality and trying to make a joke of it and stuff. And then Jamie Carragher at the fight is like in his corner backing him. And you think Jamie Carragher's like the face
he's got
of
previous
Sky Sports
for it,
football,
though, hasn't he?
Yeah, but he's the face of Sky Sports football. So this isn't just that again, it's the hypocrisy of the Rainbow Laces campaign and stuff like that. Like, it's not a good look, I don't think, for football. And there's a reason why there are no openly gay players in the top level football. I would not be surprised if there were quite a few. When you think about how many footballers there are in the world, and there's a handful of openly gay professional players, if that. I think there's a lot of deep-rooted problems in the sport. But this could be, not to move on from it too abruptly, but this could be a whole podcast on its own. So I think that's something we could delve into a bit deeper later on. But
on that though, Jack, I just wanted to say,
James,
just to make it a little bit light-hearted and stuff like that on it. It's just as well that managers like Brian Clough are no longer in the game, isn't it? Really, it really is, isn't it?
Yeah, as good as he was, there's problems that come with people like that in there. Characters like that.
I think you can accept, though, that people are a little bit outdated. Like grandparents who use the wrong terminology. You can teach, you can learn, you can try and almost make them realise that that's not acceptable anymore. We need to learn from that. We don't say that. That's not something you use. That's not a term you use. But to openly just be saying, and then he come and try and defend himself on TalkSport. I mean, I don't know if you've heard what he tried to say on TalkSport. It was embarrassing. I had to turn it off. It really annoyed me. And I don't know why they're giving him airtime. I know it's for clicks. I know it's to try and almost give them more listeners. But for me, they were really irresponsible in even giving him a voice there, because all he did was try and justify what he'd said by saying, "Oh well, it wasn't that bad, and I didn't mean it like that." Oh well, that's all right then, isn't it?
There's no other way that them comments can be taken. They can't, you can't even just say, "Oh yeah, it's a bit of banter on the training pitch."
They're not even open to interpretation. You know exactly what he's saying, and he knows exactly what he's saying as well.
Sorry, Jack. Last one. I think what's most damaging, and this really, really is damaging. You think about what's gone on with the Yorkshire cricket stuff. And the South Asians that are being targeted within establishments and proper, really well-established clubs, foundations, authorities. It's going to just disengage people.
Yeah.
No wonder we don't have many South Asian footballers at pro level. They don't probably want to get involved. They'd rather stay away from it. I don't want that. No, I don't want that trouble. That's why it's not helpful at all.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely something that I think the FA needs to act on. I think even if they do a little bit like what they do in games where they sort of look back and they give it a retrospective view and they review it, because I think 18 months is a bit pitiful. I think it's very, very hypocritical based on what they've done for the last couple of years. Like you say, they're taking the knee and the kick it out campaign, which has existed for pretty much the majority of time I've been watching football, as far as I can remember. So I think it's the man himself is problematic, and that's understating it. I can't really say what I want to say about him on air, but the FA haven't helped themselves there. But we'll move on to something a little bit more positive, and we'll talk about a certain man that this podcast is based on the title, because he has played for all three of our clubs. He is, I imagine, the highest scoring New Zealander in Premier League history, and that is Mr. Chris Wood. Obviously, first played for Leicester, and then made his way via Burnley and Leeds to Newcastle, and now he has joined Forest. So, James, think it's a good signing, or?
Yeah, I do. I think he's. When you think about what position Forest are in at the minute, we're not. Obviously, we're not going to be targeting 40, 50 million pound strikers, and I think what Cooper's trying to do is obviously bring in his younger players and his flair players that he's got in Gibbs White, in Brennan Johnson, and he's brought in Gustavo Scarpa now. He's a Brazilian attacking midfielder. He's obviously aiming to use these players, and he wants more like a target man, like a focal point.
Yes, someone's play off.
Somebody's play off, yeah. And I think speaking to Newcastle fans, and they've all said that Wood does bring that, and he's a bit of a grafter as well. So you saw that last season when Newcastle were scrapping down the bottom at the end of the season. He was a player that was really wanted to dig in and work hard and stuff like that. And I think, like I say, if he can do that for us, and I think it's a good sign overall. I do think it's a good one.
Do you think that's a fair assessment as somebody who's watched him for the last
it's
a year now, isn't it?
Yeah, I've got to be honest. I'm a little bit gutted. Not that he's not going to play all that much, but as a third choice striker, I don't think there's a better third choice in the league other than maybe your lot, Jack. I think you've got.
Can't score a goal for Toffee though, at the moment, can we?
But on ability, you would say they are.
Yeah.
I don't actually think there's a better third choice in the league. I'm someone who had a real soft spot for him because he came when not many people wanted to. He took the challenge on. He came and grafted. He worked his bollocks off. There's so much to be said for all right, yeah, he doesn't score many. He had a goal every 3 games at Burnley, and Burnley weren't exactly a forward-thinking team. He came to us. He didn't do anywhere near as well as that in terms of numbers, but he brought players into the game. He definitely enhanced the game of others. So it almost took when we were sitting in, because there was times last season when we would sit in, we could knock it long, and he would hold it and keep hold of it for 5, 6, 7 seconds, and allow someone like a Maxi or an Almiron to get by him, and it would just take that pressure off the defence.
Yeah, that's literally exactly what we're after this year. For the rest of the season, really, that's exactly what we're after. Somebody to just literally to run off.
You look at the goals he did score for us. He got one at Southampton away where we won 2-1, and that was the goal to make it 1-1 to equalise. So it was an important goal. And then he got the winning penalty against Wolves at St James's as well. So the goals he did score were important. It wasn't like the third one in a 3-0 win.
Yeah.
So I really wish him the best. I've got a lot of respect for him as well, because it sounded like he was keen to stay. Because there's a chance at potentially playing in Europe next season as a third choice. But it sounds like House sat him down and said, look, your chances are going to be limited. We're looking at bringing another forward in. This is a great deal for us, but you're going to play every week. And he hasn't gone, do you know what, I'm going to sit on my wage packet, because apparently he's on 90k a week. He's gone, I'm going to take on this challenge now. I don't think you can criticise a man for taking on the responsibility he's taken on in the last couple of years. So honestly, wish him the best of luck. Really, really... I'm hopeful Forest stay up now. And not that I wasn't anyway, but I now look at them and go, do you know what? I want them to stay up, because
I think
really
the Forest Twitter page is a bit 50-50 as to whether it's going to be a good sign or not. But I just think, we've obviously had Cooper now for, what is it, probably well over a year, I thought. But
November, wasn't it?
Is it November, was it?
November 2021?
Yeah, sounds about right. Maybe September, but whenever. I think September, October, maybe a bit before that, whatever it was. He's brought in, this transfer window just gone in the summer. He brought in no end of players, but majority of them have been good ones, and some of them that were being tarnished. Like one that sticks really vividly in my memory is me and my mate. When we were linked with Serge Aurier, it was like my mate said to me, like, it's a bad egg, and as you two well know from watching him at Spurs, and he was walking red card, a bit of a liability at right back, stuff like that. But he has definitely been him and Gibbs White, I'd say, have been the signings of the season for us. If you're talking value for money, obviously Aurier's over Gibbs White because he was free, but he has actually been. And I just think, whatever names are being targeted, whatever names are being linked with Forest, I just think, if Cooper wants him, let him have him, because he knows himself, and I think we've got a good transfer policy there now. But you look at when we're talking going back to Chris Wood, he scored goals for Burnley, he scored goals for Leeds, Leicester, Newcastle, wherever he's been. He has scored goals. I know his time at Leicester was in the Championship, mainly in the Championship. Did he play for you in the Premier League?
No. I think he was there. I think he was in. No, he did. He scored first game back home to Everton 2-2. He scored in that game. So he did play on and off, but he left in that season.
But then he went back to the Championship, didn't he, with Leeds?
Yeah.
And then, but and at one point he was a Championship striker. But yeah, he's like I say, wherever he's been, really, he scored goals. And maybe Cooper's not bringing him in just to score goals. Maybe he's bringing him in to use him as like I say, as just a target man. In which case,
I think as well, you've got to think, like, worst case, you go down. You've then got a perfect striker to lead the line every single week against proper Championship defenders who are going to try and knock you about. He isn't going to get knocked about. Nobody can knock him.
He's been down there for that 46 games. That's the Saturday Tuesday that you get in the Championship. The 46 games, the slogging it out. As everybody says, can he do it at Stoke on a Tuesday night? He's proven that he can do all that.
He was doing it at Burnley every other week, wasn't he? That's the new Stoke, isn't it?
He was at home there, wasn't he?
Yeah. Right, we'll talk about your game now. James. I'm going to try something new here. People who are listening rather than watching, I will go through it with you. So we'll go through the table and we'll have a look. Okay, look at this magic. So obviously, big result in the end for you, I think, James. Forest now in 13th, played 21 points. You're getting over a point a game. I think ultimately the run you're on at the moment, you've lost, drawn, won, draw. So like, what's that? 8 points out of the last 15 available. That's good form.
Yeah. I'll say it is. We've obviously come back from the World Cup, and the first 2 games back after the World Cup was United away, and then Chelsea at home, which was like, oh God, looking at them on paper, you think you're going to get nothing from them, but obviously just played our 20th game, so we're now just over the halfway point, and after 19 games, we're on 20 points. So the magical 40 points, what they reckon for the Premier League. So
I think it'll be less this year.
You're thinking that we're safe, but are we safe? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And until it's literally mathematically we are safe, then we obviously can't take a foot off the gas. And
at least you've had a good go at it. Good go at it. I mean, don't get me wrong. You might have made it a bit difficult in future transfer windows because of obviously the massive outlet, but you're probably going to make that money back just on the money that you get from staying in the league, and then you're guaranteeing another year of it by staying up.
Mm-hmm. That was one thing that really. That was one thing that really, not annoyed me, but a lot of people were saying about Forest when we're in the summer and stuff like that. They were saying, can't believe all the players that Forest are bringing in, and but then on the other hand, they were saying, oh, it's really good to have a club like Forest back in the Premier League. And I was thinking, hold on, the two of them, you can't say it's great to have Forest back in the Premier League and then be surprised when they're spending money to obviously have a bit of a go at it. Because obviously last year, as you'd have seen, our squadron went up, and like Jed Spence, Max Lowe, Zinkernagel, David, they're all loan players. And yes, okay, they did great for us, but they're all loan players. And then 2 weeks after the playoff final, or whatever it was, Samba's left, the keeper. So you're thinking, like, with bodies down, Graben's then left, and like, we needed bodies in. Did we need 24 bodies in? Not really, but we definitely needed bodies in.
I think it's a huge point as well, because actually what it does is it turns your game against Leeds next week into a 6-pointer. Like if you can win that, then obviously you're really looking at in a strong position. But then if you lose, it drags you right back in again. So I personally, I mean, I said it at the start of the year that I think you'd stay. I said it when we spoke in the summer, James, that I thought you'd stay up. I thought it'd be by the skin of your teeth. But I also think that the standard at the bottom of the Premier League this year is not particularly good. All you got to do is look at the amount of red on that to see that a lot of teams lose regularly at the bottom of the Premier League. Like, there's not many teams, because even Wolves, like people say Wolves have turned themselves around, but actually that form's very inconsistent. Like you're the only team down there who seems to be picking up a bit of form, and that's why you're sat at the top of that pile at the moment.
One of the biggest things.
I did have a bit of a look earlier on. Sorry, Euan, go on.
No, sorry. It's one of the biggest things you've got in your favour is you've got a really, really raucous home support. When City Ground's rocking, it's different to somewhere like Everton at the minute, where it's very toxic. Wolves not really feeling it at the minute. It looks like there's a lot of empty seats. It looks like they're a little bit disillusioned. West Ham fans have gone from cloud 9 to below the clouds. It's been awful for them. So you've got a fan base who, if you go down, they're not going to like all of a sudden turn on the club. You're galvanised in a way that others aren't. And I think you could even say that about Leeds, who I know a few Leeds fans, they're not convinced on March. Whether you are, you're not, they're all divided on him. They're not sure on him. You've at least got everyone behind Cooper. You're bringing faces in. You're giving it a go. You can see that. I think you've got that.
100%. I said it so many times. Even if we go down, I'm keeping Cooper 100%. Let's build around him. Let's let him do what he wants to do. He's clearly got a vision here with the club. Let him do what he wants to do. But just before I come on, I just did a bit of not research, but just looked into our fixtures. This next sort of 4 or 5 games are really, really crucial for Forest. Because obviously we've just played Leicester. Obviously, still and picked up 3 points, and then just played Bournemouth after that. The next sort of run of games we've got next week, we've got a week off because we've got spanked by Blackpool in the cup, which we're not going to talk about. But then we've got Leeds at home, Fulham away, Man City at home. We forget that one. You just write that one off. West Ham away and Everton away. So you're looking at them at the next 15 points. If Leeds home, Fulham away, West Ham away,
you could easily get 10 from that. You could easily get 10 from that.
This almost is going to be, and I'm not saying that. I'm not saying if we win 3 of them and draw, or like I say, get 10 points out of them, we're definitely going to be safe at all. But we've got to be taking points out of these next sort of 4 games. Like I say, your Man Cities and that, you just write them off, and a bit of damage limitation really into.
You're right. It's a pivotal run of games for you, isn't it? It's season defining.
Definitely, yeah. Because the last 9 games of the season, all of the games except for when we play Southampton at home are against teams that are above us. And you're throwing in I think Tottenham might just be like the 11th game or whatever, but Newcastle's in there, Chelsea, we've got Man United, Man City, Liverpool, so Arsenal as well. And by that, if we can get to that point and be firmly pushing for around about that 12th spot or anything like that, then you're looking at it thinking we're surely in a good enough position now. Because then you're relying on other teams, Wolves winning, Bournemouth winning, Everton winning, Southampton winning. So, yeah, hopefully.
I do not miss this, honestly. I remember last season, literally about a week ago, a year gone, we just drawn to Watford at home and still haven't won a game. And I was like, this is not. We're down. But it can change. And I remember watching games on telly, and it was games like I don't know, Leeds versus whoever it was, Brentford, and I was like, oh God, I don't know who I want to win. I don't know how happy I am if they score or if they're not. It is difficult, and I think you've just got to make sure that you are focused on getting through each game one at a time. And if you get battered one week, you don't let it change the way you play. You don't let it get you down, and that's where I think teams like Everton will slip, because if they take a beating at home, which anyone in the league,
they did the week against Brighton.
Yeah, like their fans turn, and it's not healthy. It's really not healthy. Whereas, like I say, you haven't got that.
But then going back to your original point this weekend, at any point away in the Premier League, especially for a club that's down the bottom, scrapping for it is a good point. It's a good point, and it shows. I know we left it late, but in the second half, we definitely did deserve something out of the game. Had a goal disallowed in the first half for a marginal offside by Willy Bolly's toenail or something ridiculous, but it was offside, so it's given. Yeah, forget it. But then, good to see Forest, really digging in and sticking at it to eventually get a point on the board. So yeah, good. And obviously, taking 2 off of Bournemouth as well.
Can I ask you, James? You're in the semi-final of the cup.
Oh.
Would you take Wembley, but you don't know what's going to happen, but it's a chance at silverware, but you have to get relegated? Or do you take promotion? You staying up, and you get beat by Man United. What are you taking? A day out at Wembley, chance, but you go down.
Day out at Wembley. Obviously, I won them in May, which was amazing. Really, really was. I never actually thought it would happen with Forest, but
didn't hear the fucking end of it for like a week. But
What made it forward, Jack?
We said less when we won the FA Cup. Fucking hell.
I think, because we've never been. We were like one. I think there was like 7 clubs that had not been at the new Wembley, and we were one of them.
Yeah.
We're another one.
But but I think I'd have to take stopping up, because obviously now with the Premier League, there's so much more that comes with it. The TV money and stuff like it. Really can stopping up can be the difference between massive funds of the club and stuff like that. But if we get to Wembley, would it be a great day out? Of course it would. But then it's looking incredibly likely we're going to be facing Newcastle if we beat Man United. Kind of see us getting.
Don't be jinxing us. Don't be jinxing us. Honestly,
I mean, so that Southampton knocked out Man City, so anything's possible
already.
No,
right.
So I think, I don't want to see us get rolling over by United. I'd like to see us put up a good performance, but if you to answer your question, Euan, it'd be stopping up and getting beat by United. Yeah,
I can understand that. I get that.
Right, boys. So we'll move on to the next item on the list, and that is the not so mighty Leicester City at the moment. Like, I don't know. I think how many was there? I think there was about 31 and a bit thousand at the King Power on Saturday, and I think every single person in that ground, bar Brendan Rodgers, could see that equaliser coming. However, if you'd have given me a point before the game, if you'd offered me a point before the game, I'd have absolutely snapped your hands off. But given the context, looking at the league table in front of you, that extra 2 points would have been absolutely lovely, don't you think?
Definitely for you, yeah, definitely. You're only a point away from that bottom three. I'm not looking at Forest thinking we're miles off of it because we're only just above you. But yeah, you're now obviously 1 point away from it. And I've just looked at that though, and you lost 12 games. I didn't realise you'd lost as many as that. But...
Oh yeah. Only one team in the league's lost more than us.
Just rub it in. Why don't you?
That's bottom. Oh mate, I said it last week, Euan. You know that.
12, yeah.
12, it is. Yeah, just double check. It is 12. Yeah, it is.
I've also scored 28. To be fair, we just can't concede for love no money. Like they just can't. They can't defend for love no money. They just love conceding a goal.
Forest defense have definitely helped you out in October. Pushing that.
Hang on. Let's just see. Oh, we've conceded the same amount, but you've only scored 16. So
yeah,
goal difference of minus 19. That's painful.
We're conceding. Sorry, not going back to Forest, but conceding 4 at Leicester, 5 at Arsenal, and 6 at Man City definitely hasn't helped our goal difference.
Mate, better teams than you have conceded 6 at Man City.
Yeah.
So, but no, I think
what's hard for you, Jack, is you texted me straight after the game and said 2 points dropped, and it goes back to that, like almost that expectation of you 2-1 up. Manage the game properly.
Yeah,
you're going to get a result probably where you're not expecting to get a result here. Brighton are a really, really good team. They've got good players. They've got a really good system. They can drop a player and the next player comes in. You might not even know who they are, yet they do the same job. They know what their place is. And I couldn't understand why he didn't do something to ensure that. And whether it might be sticking 11 men behind the ball, but just do it.
He can't though. He gets paid like 10 million a year or 8 million, however much it is. It's a lot of million for the club that he's at. He gets paid a lot of money.
A lot of million.
Well, I don't know. It's 8 or 10 million. The number changes in the media all the time. But like, I was speaking to a few Brighton fans because obviously I don't know if you saw. Like, I tweeted like my match review out.
Twitter row, wasn't it? Yeah.
I was nice about them. I said backing off Brighton suicidal, and they came at me. I was like bloody hell.
Seems like Brighton.
Yeah, I was actually saying it in a positive tone. Oh God. Anyway, but like I had a good point. Like we weren't engaging them till they got into the final third, and against any team, you have to be more aggressive than that. You can't just let a team like coax into your final third and then start to engage them. Especially and you watch the equaliser, no one gets anywhere near to Ferguson. I mean, he's a good player, Ferguson is, and he looks like he's a talent. But like any centre forward would love that much space in the box, running onto a perfectly flat cross like that. You got to get out and challenge him and engage him.
It felt like
do it.
You had massive gaps between your players.
Yeah, I was about to say
felt like there was too many.
And considering we're all in 1/3 of the pitch, that's madness.
When you watch it,
that's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah.
When you watch it on Match of the Day, you literally see like Papi Mendy's just like let him just coast by him as if to say, he's not my man. I'm not really that bothered by him. And Amati's clearly not. We're all gonna have our own opinion on it. And listen to the podcast last week. You're not a massive fan, Jack, so I'm not. But Amati's not taking it and thought, actually, I'll go and look at him. And then it's obviously not Castagne's job because he's meant to be stopping the cross coming in.
Yeah.
Fires or whatever he's called. He's obviously. Defending the box well. So Amati, he's miles off his man.
Even if it's not Amati, one of them two centre halves has got to get out to him and attack the ball, or somebody in midfield's got to come with him because he goes past about 3 players to get there. But it all starts as well though, and this is where it kind of, poor decision making and mistakes in the game, they happen. But this is where it has to go back to what Brendan's telling them, and I'm not completely blaming Brendan for this, but it's got to be something that's in the mentality because when Daka had that ball in that situation. Most managers or most players would smash that ball, either try and run with it or smash that ball halfway up the pitch and then go, right, let's get up the pitch, push them up, squeeze them up, try and catch them offside if they try and hit it back up long, or just let us reset, let us get back into a good shape and get everyone back into the positions and reset. But Daka decides to turn around and pass it to someone, and he doesn't even look, and he passes it straight to their lad, and it invites pressure back on again. And the most worrying thing is that you can tell things are bad at the moment because people are saying how much better we looked on Saturday when actually we didn't really look that good at all. Like we definitely had chances, and it is. I'll be honest, it is the best we've played for a few weeks. I'll give them credit for that, but it's still not good enough. You can't get into a winning position. It is 2 points drop, not because we're better than Brighton, not because we should be beating Brighton, but because we were in a position to win that game. We needed to win that game because when you look at you talked about momentum and fixtures coming up, James. Listen to this, right? We've got Walsall in the cup next round because we didn't get spanked by Blackpool. So like we could probably lose over there. But we've got Villa away, Spurs at home, United away, Arsenal at home, Southampton, which is like, that's a winnable game, and then we're at home to Chelsea. So I mean, you're lucky there if you get in 4 points, I reckon. Yeah. I think we've done well.
Just read the first two again, sorry.
Villa and then Spurs.
Yeah, yeah. And Villa are going some at the minute as well. Emery's doing a right good job there. He's got them going, hasn't he? So
they're just solid.
That's a tough one.
Right, moving up the table though, let's just talk about very briefly on our opposition on Saturday. Brighton, they'll have seen that as a disappointing result, I think, because not to badmouth us too much, but they'll have definitely seen that as a good result, as a poor result, because we've been absolute crap and they've been flying. Actually, I think if you look at the points, if they'd have picked up them 2 extras, they'd have been level on points with Spurs, who are playing tonight, granted, but then they'd have had 2 points in hand on them. So that would have put Brighton in an incredible position.
I was just going to echo your point because I listened to yours two chatting last week on the podcast and that about the, excuse my French, about the shithousery of the game. And like when Euan said, that Leicester have got to be seeing games out, literally better and stuff like that. And like you said yourself, that side of the game, you've got to massively improve on Leicester. I'm not saying, look at Forest, we're brilliant at it, because we probably aren't, but that side of the game, like you say, if you'd have literally looked at that game and gone Leicester 2, Brighton 1, and you'd have won that game by seeing it out well, that's a massive result. That is a massive result. And like you say,
it's the dark arts, isn't it? You've got to be good at the dark art. Elite, to be elite now. I mean, it's why Mourinho's sides were as good as they were, like for years, like, and other people as well, like you were saying about Eddie Howe and understanding the rules and the tactics last week. Like, you've got to be good at it. You can't win games. You can't see out games just by purity. Like Man City, as good as they are,
well,
they do the dark arts as well.
They always pull people on the break.
Yeah.
They get away with it, but they're always fouling people. I just want to mention there, that's really interesting. You come back to the shithousery, but I don't know if you saw in the Palace Newcastle game, Palace started putting a little bit of pressure on in the 91st, 92nd minute. They got a throw in and they were looking to take it quick. Tyndall, again, I was telling you how kind of does the coach, and Tyndall kind of takes the brunt of everything else. Tyndall got a ball, rolled it onto the pitch because you can't play with 2 balls on the pitch. Stop their momentum altogether. And he got a booking for it, but it's a booking. Let him take it, but he'll take a booking. He doesn't care.
Yeah, he can have one game on the sidelines, can't he?
Exactly, and that might have been the difference between and Palace got the result. Got a draw at Man United. They could have quite easily nicked it off us, and I think that's important. We've got that side, and we got a lot of flack for the way we played at Arsenal. Like a lot of flack. We're still getting flack for it now. We're the only team to go to Arsenal and get anything. They've beaten every other team. I'm quite happy to look at that now and go, you can give us as much stick as you want. We went to the Emirates and didn't concede, and we had the literally nigh on the same expected goals because we stopped them getting at us. Man United went there yesterday. They were like toe to toe. Man United didn't go toe to toe. They got battered. They were lucky in that the 2 opportunities they got were they would go both. The first goal was brilliant, but it's kind of one of them where it's 1 in 10 they might go in. And Martinez, Ramsdale's flapped at it. So they've been quite fortunate in that respect. But I can honestly say I'm so proud that we went there and we stopped them beating us when everyone else has almost rolled over for them.
I think that's a good way to kind of like just jump into the next game. So obviously Brighton doing really well. They'd seen it as 2 points drop. But do you think that, are you worried? I mean, you guys obviously at the moment, third, played 20, won 10, drew 9, lost 1. Losing 1 game at this stage is incredible. goals for 33, which if you compare it to City and Arsenal, like you're nearly 20 behind City, nearly 12 behind Arsenal, but one more scored than United. Your defensive record is phenomenal. 11 goals conceded, 39 points. I mean, it's been I'm not downplaying your season at all. I could never, because you've been phenomenal. But are you worried about the lack of goals? Like, do you think that's what might cost you top four? Or
no? Do you know what it is? Right, it's mad that we're having this conversation when we're sat third in the league, and you're going, "Are you worried?"
No, but I'm worried about the lack of goals. Like, because
I know what you mean.
I speak from experience when I say
100%,
one half of the season and being in the top four is not finishing in the top four. I know better than anyone. I got it back to back 2 seasons in a row. That you've done, like, as much as phenomenal as you've been, as fantastic. 100%. You've achieved nothing yet, and that's it's hurt. It's hard for me to say, because you know how much I actually like Eddie Howe and what he's building there, but you haven't actually achieved anything yet. You might not win another game this season. Do you know what I mean? Like, because
absolutely,
your goals have seemed to dry up.
A question for you, Euan, because obviously you asked me one about Forest now, and
yeah,
it might sound a bit daft, but there's a reason why I'm asking. Would you want Champions League football at Newcastle next year? Now, like I say, it might be daft, but you've seen.
I know.
Is it exactly too early? Yeah, is it
seen
too
what
early?
damage it can have to teams, and obviously you've got this set. And I love the fact that Eddie Howe has literally got. You could go down St James's, and barring a couple of injuries or a couple of players here and there, you could pretty much name the starting 11 that's going to be starting. You agree?
Yeah, it was a bit like Leicester's title winning season. Like, you know who's starting, don't you?
Yeah, but then if you're going to go into Champions League next year,
for grabs.
Yeah. If you're going to go in the Champions League next year, you're obviously going to have to be like almost have 2 11s, and so yeah. Would you want Champions League football?
Okay, I'm going to go on a bit of a monologue, but I'll explain why I think the way I do, because of the process to it, right? So
we've only got 19 minutes, and I want to talk about Arsenal United as well. Don't worry.
I will.
You got 5 minutes tops.
Okay, mate. It won't be that long. I want Champions League because we need our sponsors to increase. If we get Champions League, our sponsorship deals then go through the ceiling. We can only have a certain amount of sponsors due to this new fair play sponsorship type rule committee they've got on board. So if we get Champions League, our revenue then increases hugely. We also get the Champions League money to then build more of a squad. We've got a lot of players out of contract at the end of the season who are basically picking up wages for nothing. So we would then free up wages. We would free up our revenue to wage turnover by allowing that. I understand exactly what you're saying about terms of the squad might not be big enough, but I actually find that Europa League is more of a hindrance because you play Thursday, Sunday, rather than Tuesday, Saturday, or Wednesday, Saturday, potentially even Wednesday, Sunday, because you're playing games in such a quick turnover. The games to Europa League teams are often Ukraine, Croatia.
Arse end of nowhere in Europe, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the far end of a far. So if you're talking about Champions League, you might get a Roma, you might get a Madrid, you could get a Bruges. They're down the road in comparison. So for me, I would much rather that it happen this season, because I feel we're going to have less of an opportunity to break into the top 4 next season, because you can guarantee Chelsea. Well, Chelsea are obviously going to come strong.
Yeah,
I think they're a bit of a shambles in terms of the way they've bought players and things. But Liverpool are going to come strong.
Yeah, Liverpool only won 7 here. So
exactly, like Man United are going to be stronger again because they always throw money at it. Like, there's no denying they always spend money. Arsenal look great. City. So all of a sudden, I'm a bit like, next season's going to be harder. So I think we need to break it now, which I never thought I would be saying. But given the position we're in, it would work. I also think that the players we are looking at are they're enough to improve us, and under Howe's coaching, I believe, would then kind of reach their potential. So you're talking maybe like a Moussa Diaby, you're talking like a Todibo at Nice. You're looking at players of that ilk who've got that potential to push, but then you've also they're probably not going to be chased by your Chelseas, your Liverpools. Do you get what I mean? So it improves us, but it doesn't necessarily improve the teams around us. And I think having that would definitely be a benefit to us because it makes us more attractive as well.
Yeah.
So I really do find that it's not going to be like, oh my God, it's a disaster if we don't get it. but it's such an opportunity to probably jump 3 years ahead on our
It'd be
timeline.
absolutely massive. It'd be absolutely massive for the city as well. The city of Newcastle is going. Well, it's already a crazy place.
Hugely spending money, wouldn't it? Like, the money would mean that actually, in terms of FFP, getting that money after 1 year would be huge. But like, I've just been found this as we've gone through. It's not actually that bad this year, like, because you've got England, Spain, Turkey, like Ferencváros in Hungary, but that's not that far really. But actually, if you're in the Europa League this year, looking at this, it wouldn't be that bad. But then if you didn't get that, and actually what you did get was, and what you got was the Conference League, that would be even worse. Like that some of the that we played against Randers. I'm not being funny, mate. It was like a League One pitch, like the pitch we played on up there. And I know the conditions ain't great, but like you're right. I think I'm with you on that one, James. I think if you can get in the Champions League, you get in the Champions League. Do you know what I mean? There's the opportunity.
You only got to look at West Ham this year. They've got Conference League, and they're touching down the bottom.
So. I also this is probably quite unpopular with a lot of fans, and I'm someone who has waited 28 years to even go to Wembley, let alone win something. So if you made me wait another 3-4 years for a trophy, I'm happy to wait. God, a couple of years ago, I didn't think it was ever going to happen. So I'd rather take the Champions League now to accelerate our build and become a more attractive proposition, just basically a force. Because for me, the trophies will follow if you build correctly. I don't think a trophy then guarantees us Champions League in the next 2 years. I think it's the other way around. I think it's if you get Champions League, you almost guarantee a trophy closer. I'm not saying it guarantees it, but you almost, it becomes an inevitability if you're still going to be prepared to put in the money, have the sponsorship deals, become an attractive proposition. So I would take Champions League over trophy, only because I've never seen us win a trophy anyway. I can wait another 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. I'm happy.
James Maddison to Newcastle.
Won't be fucking surprising.
You're going to upset. You're going to upset. Jack.
No,
but
you can't. It's like that. The Simpsons stop. He's already dead meme and fucking hell. Don't. Honestly,
I think we're probably the team who's going to offer the most amount of money, and I also think that it's a good move for him because he's probably going to come in and be the main man. Like, he's brilliant. Me and Jack have waxed lyrical about him for so long now. I don't know how he didn't get any minutes at the World Cup. He is one of them players who I think goes under the radar because he's not Brazilian and he's not Spanish and he doesn't have O on the end of his name.
It's got to be called James Maddison. That's what he's got to be. He's got to change his name, hasn't he?
He's definitely got a lot. He's definitely got a lot of talent. I'll hold my hands up. Forest fan, whoever you support, a lot of talent there.
Right, I'll ask this question. Sorry, Euan. Just thinking of time. I apologize. But so, do you reckon you bring in another striker before the end of the window, or do you think that Wood going out is just because he isn't going to get minutes? What do you think? You're bringing someone similar to replace him, like Zaniolo's in the shop window? What do you think?
We have to. I think it's going to happen. Now, I hear little tidbits and stuff off people within the game and things. Sounds like Mateus Franca from Flamenco is pretty, not, I wouldn't say done deal, but the wheels are in motion. Yeah. He's a number 10 who can play as a left-hand side and almost like a second striker. He can actually play as a number 8 as well. I think he's ideal because I think he's 18. He doesn't actually come into the squad rules, so you don't have to include him in the 25-man squad, yet he's a senior player. It also sounds as though there's other people who could potentially happen, like an Anthony Gordon. Now, I'm not saying he's a striker and neither is Franca, but you've got that versatility of being able to maybe, if we were struggling with Wilson and Isaac, which could happen, you can maybe put Maxi centrally, which he's done before. You could even play Joe Linton centrally because he initially was. Yeah, I think it will happen. It's just money. We're not going to throw money at it. There's no need to. Yeah. And it sounds like the owners, although they want Champions League this season, they would like it. They're not prepared to go daft in getting it, because if you throw money at it and we don't get it, you then potentially bust yourself for the next 2-3 windows.
The transfer policy that Newcastle have got, like you said last week as well, with the perseverance of we want Botman, and we're going to go for that's who we want, and going for players like that. The transfer policy they've got this season is absolutely fantastic, But the only thing is, like, you've just mentioned that you've got Wilson, you've got Isaac. Isaac's been out for a long time this season, and Wilson, as he was at Bournemouth, he is quite injured. As brilliant a striker as he is, he is quite injury prone. Thankfully for you, he has stayed fit this season. But obviously, he's only, he is a bit of a made out of glass, isn't he?
100%. I mean, with Wilson as well, he actually got whatever this flu that everyone's got at the minute. He apparently got it, and I know COVID affected him quite badly as well. However many years ago it was now.
Yeah.
And when he came on, I think it was against Leeds. He came on as sub forward, and he was, he's quite a fresh looking guy. Like, he looks well, and he's always got a grin on his face. He had gloves on. He's not like that, and he looked rough. And I think he's maybe not been able to train consistently because between games at the minute, you're playing like a Wednesday Cup game, then you're playing Saturday, then you've got a Tuesday game because it's a double game week or whatever. And I don't actually think he's had a chance to get his sharpness back and train regularly. And I think you could probably say the same for Isaac. So hopefully, because we've now got the two of them both relatively fit, we just need to get them both sharp and try and maybe use them both in tandem with each other.
I think last season, if you'd have been saying Sam Maximin won't get a game next year, you'd have been like, nah, I don't believe you.
Crazy, isn't it? And to be fair to Maxi, I know there's been a lot of rumours about him going and things. I don't think it'll happen, but if it does, it won't be now. It'll be summer. And he changed the game against Fulham. He came on for Bruno because Bruno had to go off with a bad ankle. And he came on and he almost allowed others to come in because he draws attention. He draws 2 or 3 men. And that then created a bit more room in the midfield to then create chances. And obviously the goal came in the 89th minute. And it was because Wilson and Isaac almost played as a 9 and a 10. And Maxi was just drawing so much attention that he created that room. So he maybe didn't do it directly, but he did it indirectly. So we've got options now. It's just nice.
When you're going back to look at the league table when it's before, who's the one against the defeat? Was it Liverpool?
Liverpool in the last minute, yeah. And to be fair, we just I still maintain. I mean, I know the lads on the day trippers that we spoke about it. We deserved it. We wasted a lot of time. That was the day when shit hours didn't work, and you ride your luck. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it does. And we had Botman wasn't playing. I don't think Bruno played that day. Am I right in saying Shah didn't play as well? We had a pretty makeshift team because we played Tranmere on the Saturday and played them on the Tuesday. So if you told me we'd have gone to Anfield and potentially won the game because Isaac I still don't believe was offside, and we came away with the last minute, you go, do you know what? I'll take it.
I suppose beating Liverpool ain't for everyone this year. I'm definitely not on here to brag, by the way. I'm just saying in that Forest.
We've got 8 minutes left. We got one game left to talk about, so we'll try. If we can do two in a row, you in under an hour, that's impressive for us, mate. I know, yeah. So Arsenal United on Sunday, that was proper Barclays. That was one. It was old school like Premier League. It felt like, didn't it? Like it wasn't really a tactical. Well, I mean, I say it's tactical masterclass, but it wasn't like the games of chess that we used to see in between the big teams. It was two sort of heavyweights slogging against each other, wasn't it? But how big a 3 points is it for Arsenal in the end?
Massive.
Go on, James. You go.
Absolutely massive.
I'll get the table back up.
Presumably the same as you two, but I watched it and the first 5 minutes, they're absolutely rampant. Arsenal, they were absolutely like United were like shell shocked as to who'd come out. But then, to be fair to them, they did go into the game. Obviously, went ahead. United did, but they grew into the game. But then, Arsenal just got that. The game management this year is something else that Arteta is clearly like instilling into them, and they look so good. They looks like, and the squad they've got, the squad they're building is a young squad, and it's looking like if Arteta can keep that for a while, they've got a really, really like good chance of being around the top of the table for a long time. Martinelli's young, Saka's young, and Nketiah's doing well. Centre halves as well. Saliba and Gabriel? They're both. He's got a really good squad there. But then Ben White as well. When he went to Arsenal, 50 million. I think like, what, 50 million? But he's seeming to come good. He's young. He's English. So.
Another incredible bit of business by Brighton there.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't even play for them, did he?
Barely. No, I think he had one season there.
Leeds.
He was on loan in Leeds, and didn't he have like one season there in the Premier League or half a season, something like that? But yeah, I think United, like a lot of people waxing lyrical about United, and I think the turnaround that Ten Hag's done is incredible considering the mess they were in at times last season, the season before. But are they maybe running before they can walk? In terms of, are we expecting them to challenge? Was anyone expecting them to challenge at the top? Yeah, of course, Euan. Yeah, go for it.
Right. So I'm someone who completely appreciates what Ten Hag is trying to do. You can see he's instilling a degree of discipline, authority. Get all of that. Massive respect for him doing what he did to Rashford because it seems to have worked. You can't criticise him for the way he's acting. However, I keep hearing this process thing. I don't know how they're trying to play. They don't play the same way every week. And people keep saying, "Oh, Ten Hag needs his players." Well, Anthony's done very little, and I'm not sure that they can keep saying this because I don't know if you saw Matt Goldbridge's tweet the minute they lost the game. It was like the Glazers' fault that we had nothing to change the game, and I literally said it's pathetic because they didn't have game changers in the way that maybe a Liverpool do with the depth of their squad or a City. However, they had Garnacho, who I think is one of the best young wingers in the world. They've got about 200 million worth of talent. And they also just got rid of Cristiano Ronaldo. So you can't have it both ways. Either you want that level of talent and you want that ability to change a game, or you want the discipline aspect of it and you try and rebuild gradually. And I don't personally see them as a threat to the league. I think if you look at their fixtures, Jack, I don't know if you can go on at their fixtures. They haven't played anybody for a long, long time. Their fixtures were like, I know they beat City the other week. City and Arsenal, I'll give you. But if you look, I think it was since September when they played us, or was it early October when they played us? They haven't played anyone of note and beat them. And they drew with us. So, yes, they have improved. Yes, there's definitely like an improvement of culture around the club. But they are no better than they were this time last season under Solskjaer. If you look at points,
there's a lot of deadwood there, and that's obviously become with like changing managers all the time. Like you say, Solskjaer's come in, he's brought his players in. Mourinho's come in, he's brought his players in, and the big players that they've had, and like the Lukaku and stuff like that, they've managed to get rid of. But there are still some like lingering players that are just in the background that are like just like picking up a wage, aren't they? Like they've got a lot of deadwood they need to get rid of.
I keep hearing as well things like, but we're spending too much money on players that aren't worth that. Well, if you told them you were signing Anthony in summer, they all wanted Anthony, they all wanted Sancho, they all wanted these players for big money. And then when they join and they don't do so well, it's like, you've spent it on the wrong players. Van der Beek, I knew a lot of my mates were like, Van der Beek has to play. He went to Everton, played against us, and I couldn't have been more underwhelmed, less impressed with him. Yeah. So don't make out like you're not spending money. You're just not. Your club isn't built correctly. And yes, the Glazers have to take some responsibility for that. But there's been a lot of good players who've come in as well. Varane, Martinez.
Yeah. Bruno, them and Chelsea, it's just ridiculous. Just throwing money at players. You look at the money that Chelsea spend at a minute. It's ridiculous. They're bringing in wingers and they don't even play with wingers. Bringing in, Sterling and then they still stick Mason Mount on the right wing.
There's definite progress. And I rate Ten Hag, but I think he's got a lot to prove in terms of what he's trying to achieve on the pitch because I don't know what their style is yet. So, yes, they are running before they can walk, I think, Jack. I think you've absolutely nailed it with that frame.
Yeah, I do as well. Right.
We'll do a very, very quick fire. And, James, we're going to target you with these because you are the guest today. Quick fire, no explanation. Just say it how it is. Who goes down? 3 teams. Who goes down?
Everton, Southampton, Bournemouth. Not necessarily in that order.
All right, and who wins the league?
Arsenal. I would really like to see Arsenal win it as well, but you can't write City off. No, I'm going to say Arsenal definitely for an answer.
Lovely. Right. So apologies to cut us off there, boys, because we could have, as always, we could go on all evening, but unfortunately, some people don't have more than an hour to give up for us. So, James, thank you so much for coming on. Hopefully, we'll have you on again sometime soon, and maybe after you've played against one of us. I mean, obviously, you're not going to play us again, but you've got another fixture against Newcastle. So, thank you for giving up your time, James.
Thank you very much for having me on, boys. Cheers, lads. I've appreciated it.
Cheers, James. Appreciate it, mate.
Thank you very much.
So we will be back again next week, trying to release every Monday. So obviously this is our first one going out on YouTube again since earlier in the season. So don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and get the word out there. We're really enjoying doing it again. So thank you for your support all. We will see you next week. Thank you.